Welcome, everybody. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at verifiedinvesting.com. So what we're going to do today is take a look at what's really moving in the markets to set ourselves up for success for day trading. Some of these levels will also be some good swing trading levels with some exact entry prices and some stop outs. So let's jump into the first chart, and that's going to be USO. So US oil is having a nice fall to the downside because there's additional traffic going in the Strait of Hormuz. And now all of a sudden, oil is getting a nice drawdown, which is why we're going to cover that one first. It is having, or excuse me, there is a nice gap in the charts that USO is going to get down to. So I did think that here's this high pivot point right here at $119, excuse me, $124.11. That was the first level of support. As you can see on Friday, we got close to that level, didn't get a bounce, and now we're flushing through it. So here's this gap in the charts, $116.12, where price action should get a solid bounce on the chart of USO. Now, next thing we're going to do, and this is just for a day trade. I'm not looking to swing trade USO because it's still so elevated. I don't really like this trade, especially if the Strait of Hormuz stays open. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to my screen, my stock screen, or my Ben's list. So if I go to the top end and see where things are moving, FOX is down a little bit today. So we're getting into a lot of support right here at $52.54. Now, as you can see, a lot of price consolidation right in this area. So Fox Corporation can drop a little bit more, $52.54. Previous pivot top, ton of price consolidation. You can tell that at one point in time, there was support and resistance, which means that once price action gets back into that level, there should be some buyers to step up. Now, that is the first level of support. And my swing trade level on FOX would be all the way down to this low pivot point right here. Oh, I'm not sure what happened there. Let's switch back. Here we go. Right all the way down to $49.79 or 77 cents. You got a low pivot point, low pivot, price action in this area, and a gap in the charts that still needs to be filled. So day trade level, $52.54. Swing trade level is starting right here at $49.77. Now, as you can see, APP is getting a little bit of a drawdown today, but not a huge move to the downside. Bearish consolidation, so it does favor a continued move to the downside. Let's go ahead and remove all this stuff right here. Boyle's dropping, USO, like I was mentioning, DVN, Devon Energy Corporation. Your level of support for a day trade, and $40.55 is that long level. I know I have a ton of lines and fib extensions as well as trend lines. What I'm going to mention, though, is that all these things in the charts play out quite nicely. As you can see, DVN, once we had this downsloping trend line, broke to the downside, had this upsloping trend line. And now once we get above this $40.55 level, that's going to be support. And as you can see, we're coming back in. So that's my day trade level. But not a ton is dropping significantly. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this and go to what's moving to the upside. Trip did have a deal with American Express selling part of their company. So we're not really interested in Trip because there is a buyout possibility. Wolf has so beaten up. It did go through bankruptcy, getting a nice surge to the upside, 13%. Again, something that we're not really interested in if it decides to head higher. SBSW. So SBSW, South DBA Sibian Stillwater Limited. Here is a downsloping trend line that we're monitoring. Okay, so now that we're in the pre-market at $10.90, you're into a lot of resistance. Again, this is not a shortable level because of how beaten up this is. What I'd be looking at is this downsloping trend line right here. Make sure logarithmic charts are off. If we do run up into this, basically this confluence area where this prior gap in the charts is sitting at $11.90 and this downsloping trend line, that is your area to start shorting SBSW. Knowing that you could stop out on any 15-minute closing basis above this downsloping trend line, that's where you'd exit your trade. NBIS. So NBIS is having a nice surge to the upside. A lot of memory stocks are surging as well. So MU, STX, I know NBIS. So a couple different ones that are moving to the upside. So here's a gap in the charts right here on NBIS, $259.67. Now, this is not only a day trade, but starting to be good for a potential swing trade as well. If you're a little bit more aggressive, this is where you'd start, knowing that you could dollar cost average all the way up to this high pivot at 278.70. Your exit price would be any close above that on a daily closing basis. You could just exit that trade. NBIS, as you can see, can be a really wild mover. So I have an alert right here, and this is an entry point for a day trade. Again, 259.67 is where I'd be looking to short NBIS in the day trading room. Micron is heading higher as well. Look at this. This was the highest it got in the pre-market, which was $1,066.16. As you can see, we're kind of close to that level now. Normally, if we get a big enough pullback on something in the pre-market, if it were to drop 6 or 7%, fine, I would be interested in getting into this in the pre-market or in as the market open. But now, here's this major gap in the charts sitting at $1,079.57. So gap in the charts with this huge surge to the downside. Look at this huge move, 20% drop. So when price action does get back up into this gap in the charts, you should see some selling pressure. This is not only a day trade, but also the beginning point of a swing trade short. And the reason I like this for a swing trade short, is I could stop out if it does start closing above basically $1,100 or $1,089.29. That would be the level that you would exit the trade on a daily closing basis above that, because then you could see a lot more upside in Micron if that ends up happening. STX is another stock that's surging to the upside. So here's a nice upswing trend line. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out in the charts a little bit. Pivot low here, secondary hit, third hit. Price did get below it, got back above it, got rejected, got closed below it again. Price consolidated above it. Now we finally confirmed or made a continuation move right here, put in this nice bear flag. Now we're pushing higher. So a pierce of $1,000 actually is where we're at in the pre-market on STX is a great opportunity to begin a swing trade short, knowing that if it does start to recapture this upswing trend line, then all of a sudden, this trade, the change of character with this breakdown is recapturing this. So then you would just look to stop out and look for another potential reversal on STX. If you put on the RSI, it is still creating negative RSI divergence. And so that's another reason that I like the chart of STX above $1,000. Again, now that it's above there in the pre-market, if you're a little bit more conservative, I would actually look to play this at about 1,050, even though it would be above this upswing trend line. But you should get a pretty significant resistance or pullback on the chart of STX. AG. So silver futures are heading higher today, and that's why we're getting this nice bid. Look at this. Major pivot top, price consolidated right in this area, $15.70. Beautiful bounce off this level. So now if we do push up a little bit more, for those of you who are aggressive, $19.79, if silver gets into resistance, is going to be that rejection zone. Now, this is going to be brief rejection if the price action of silver can continue to rally. I see AG hitting all the way as high as $24.50. So this is a day trade level potential if silver can get into some resistance as well. RIOT is having a nice surge to the upside as well. Here's this upswing trend line. You got a pivot top here, secondary hit. So if we get above $30, if you're aggressive, and this is a smaller company. So RIOT is a $10 billion company, and it's a smaller stock. So this thing can really surge to the upside. So if you're aggressive, $30.30 or $30 pierce basically is where you'd be looking to enter a short play on RIOT. And then you have this upswing trend line right here where price action did get back below. So this is a dual confluence zone on RIOT. Again, that's above $30, $30.11. Knowing that if it does start recapturing this major upswing trend line and then the secondary upswing trend line on a daily closing basis, you could just stop out. But great for a potential day trade, especially with the 6.39% move to the upside. SanDisk is another stock that we're monitoring. Wow, look at the continued push on this. I actually had this as a potential upswing trend line break. If it did get above $2,000, I thought this was a great entry price for a short. SanDisk is just such a wild mover, up another 7.29% and just continuing to surge. So for me, if you're already in this, you would probably look to stop out of the trade. For me, I would be looking at a $2,200 Pierce today to enter this for a day trade short. And SanDisk, this is something that I would actually stay away from for shorting. This just continues to defy gravity over and over and over again. This is like the opposite of catching a falling knife. This is trying to catch a momentum shift that doesn't seem to be happening. So SanDisk is something that for shorting, for day trade, I would love to get into it, because then I could just dollar cost average every $15 to $20 higher. In this case, it'd be like $20 to $21 higher. However, if you're looking to swing trade short this thing, you're looking at every $200, and that's about a 10% move. And that's what SanDisk can do from time to time. As you can see, it's up 7% in the pre-market. Absolutely insane. Okay. GDX is moving because that's just what's going on with the gold prices as well. WDC, another memory stock, is getting up at just pierced $600 again. Here's what I was mentioning. Pivot low here, secondary hit, third hit, price got below, and now we're starting to get above an upswing trend line. So this is your stop out. If it recaptures this upswing trend line, then all of a sudden this negates this broken trend, and now we're continuing to surge to the upside. So in the live day trading room, I would be looking for a $625 Pierce. Once we can get that, then I'd be looking to go short. Something like this, I would dollar cost average every $6 to $10 higher, knowing that eventually we will get some sort of a pullback. And so that's why I would keep my dollar cost average close. Start at 625 Pierce, and then add at 630 Pierce, and then 635, and then 640, and then 645, and then 650. This is a wild mover as well. Sometimes you can get these momentum stocks and they just continue to surge. So be a little bit more careful. If you're going to enter it at 625, if it does close above that on a 15-minute closing basis, you could just look to stop out of the trade if you're only looking for a single entry. And then you could look to ride it all the way back down to this previous gap in the charts, sitting around $594.49. Bloom Energy is having a nice push to the upside as well. You do have this gap on BE right here at $302. And let me go ahead and readjust that. $302.85. This is a nice day trade level. And we're starting to get up to another swing trade short level as well. If we can head back higher, recapture the all-time high, and get back up to about $336 all the way up to $340. This is something that I would swing trade short. And the reason, because of the volatility, this is something that would usually play out quite nicely on a retrace of an upswing trend line. SMR, here's a NuScale Power Corporation downswing trend line. I do think that eventually we're going to have a nice break to the upside on SMR. And then once that happens, this is the upside move that I'm looking at. Pivot low here, secondary hit, third hit, fourth hit. Look at all this price consolidation. So we are going to get met with some resistance on the way up. Obviously, you're going to stop at $14, but eventually I think SMR can get up to as high as this upswing trend line right here around $17. I wouldn't be holding on to this the whole time. I would look for a break of this downswing trend line, exit that, and then wait for another retrace back down to about $9.66, and then potentially dollar cost averaging all the way to $8.85. USAR is making a decent move, but nothing else is really making significant pushes to the upside. A major resistance level on Rigetti, if we can get up to this resistance level right here, $26.68 would be a great entry price for RGTI. But as you can see, that's going to be a huge push to the upside. That'd be another 20% move. Something like Rigetti can move if you're a little bit more aggressive. Here's a gap in the charts sitting at $24.16, and that is your day trade level. Swing trade level, I would have to wait for it to get back down. I actually liked $19.85 for a swing trade. But now that we're already gapping above that, if it does start coming back down, I would look to pick this up at about $16.90. All right. So that's what I have for you guys. Hopefully you guys are set up for the morning session. You guys have your entry prices, your exit prices, any of these levels. If you don't like to dollar cost average, look to stop out at any closing basis on a 15-minute closing basis above or below your entry prices, and then look for a reversal signal of some kind to minimize the amount of risk that you're taking in the stock. So that's what I have for you guys. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time in the charts. Take care.